Jarrett, Stidham, Sean Payton, and the Denver Broncos host Drake Maye, Mike Vrabel, and the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game, with the winner advancing to the Super Bowl. It's a rematch of the 2015 AFC Championship game when the dominant Broncos defense knocked off Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning went on to win a Super Bowl in his final season, going out with a bang. Now, for Denver to pull this one off, it has a similar storyline. Dominant defense pulling off in upsets in a fashion where their quarterback just needs to not make mistakes. That's what's required of Jarrett in this game. Now, for Denver, this isn't some type of game that they're going to play where they keep him under 18 or 19 passing attempts. He's going to have to throw the football down the field. And you might ask, why? Why can't they just run the football and not turn the ball over, play good defense? Well, the answer to that is simply the way that the New England Patriots have played defensively. Teams have not been able to run on New England. This defense right now for the Patriots, in the sense of looking at their total body of work, they are the number 3 defense in football in points a game, 17.8. In yards a game, they were 6th best, 288 yards a game that they gave up. Yards a play, 5. That was the 7th best in football. And then in the postseason, what they have done to the Chargers, only allowing those 3 points to Justin Herbert, McConkey, Johnston, all of those weapons for LA. And then the Texans game, 4 interceptions from CJ Stroud, his worst game of his career, and the dominating nature of their run defense. 22 carries for 48 total yards for the Houston Texans. And for the Denver Broncos, one of their strengths throughout the whole year has been their run game. The balance between the rookie RJ Harvey out of UCF and the surging nature of JK Dobbins with his career coming back from injury potentially in this game. He was activated to return to practice. The question is, like there are many of these in these types of matchups, is JK Dobbins going to be fully available, healthy enough to go? Because when he is on the field, he's a dynamic playmaker. He's a weapon. And he's a huge part of why the Broncos have won 14 of 16 games. The Patriots, they've won 15 of 16. It's famous at this stage that they started off the season with a really bad loss to the Raiders, and they were immediately thrown down the totem pole, said that this was going to be a long year for Drake Maye, and then everything changed with their Sunday night win over Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills on the road. And they've gone on to be clearly one of the most complete teams in the NFL. And if we're being honest, looking at the entire football season, the playoffs, all of it together, you would say that the Patriots, the Broncos, the Rams, and the Seahawks are the best 4 teams in the NFL. I truly would believe that. With the Denver Broncos injury to their quarterback, Bo Nix, clearly they would be the least favored team out of the 4. But I still think that the Broncos, their defense with Stidham and the ability for him to push the ball downfield, can't forget that this guy was a very talented player in college. And I think that he can have some success. He's got that receiving core. He's got an excellent offensive-minded head coach in Sean Payton to cater towards his strengths, and that is to move the pocket. This New England pass rush, it starts with Landry. It continues with Milton Williams in the beginning. I talked about Milton Williams for maybe 10 minutes in my video breaking down their matchup against the Texans and how pivotal his presence has been for this defense, turning them into one of the best in football. And he's a big part of why they could be competing for a Super Bowl, just like how he was the Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles a year ago. But still, the Denver Broncos with the backup quarterback are no doubt, you would say, a top 7 or 8 team in the league, just because their defense has been historical. And they've had the 5th most sacks in NFL history with that number of 68. It has been quarterback hit after tackle for a loss, after getting to the quarterback and pounding them. The only thing that's sort of been weird about it all is that they were 18th in the NFL interceptions. They had 10 picks on the season, and then you compare that to the Patriots, who also had 10 interceptions. They had 35 sacks. They had 33 less sacks than the Broncos, and still yet they had the same number of interceptions. So I thought that was interesting. And the Denver Broncos on the year with that -3 turnover differential. So that goes to show you that certain stats are really unique, and it's a fun part of the game. And for a lot of individuals, it's mundane and they don't like to get into that. But I've always loved looking into that type of thing, because I was one of those people that in that matchup 10 years ago, and again, they had met before with Patriots, Broncos, and another AFC title game with Denver. They blew them. I didn't blow them out, but they beat them clearly. I want to say about 10 points the year before, and I guess that would have been 2 years prior when they beat them in that game. It was an offense with Peyton Manning, with Demaryius Thomas, God rest him, and that entire team. It started with their Week 1 win against the Baltimore Ravens. I think 7 touchdown passes for Manning. It went on throughout the entire season. Manning set the record for touchdown passes, for passing yards, and all of those statistics. And then they ran into that buzzsaw that was the Seattle Seahawks. But then you came back in this AFC title matchup. In this instance, with New England favored, just felt like Tom Brady and that offense were going to be able to have a chance. I thought that Peyton Manning was going to get killed at times in that game, that his arm might get almost ripped off from what was a really good Patriots defense. Belichick always had really talented defenses, and if I'm not mistaken, that game wound up coming down to a 2-point conversion that the Patriots couldn't succeed on. Why would this one be a little bit different? Clearly, a quarterback advantage helps you, and the Patriots had one in that game. They do so in this one. I also think that the team's level, that their ultimate level, like the Broncos defense and the Patriots defense, they're of similar talent. Now, Christian Gonzalez, he was a huge question mark when I was talking about the preview and getting ready to go over that game against the Texans, and I was under information he wasn't playing, and he wound up playing, and he led the team in tackles. He had a pass defended. He had 9 tackles overall, 6 solo tackles. He was an impact player just the way he has been throughout the entire season. He's still bona fide top 5 corner. You're going to see some of the best defensive back play. There's a bit of a concern with Robert Spillane. How healthy is he? They were a defense this year that was really underrated, not talked about a whole lot. A lot of the attention went to teams like Houston, and for good reason. It went to the Denver Broncos and attacking, and that was their nature. One-score games coming down to the wire, very much like the divisional round game against the Buffalo Bills, and they came up with that stop. Here you go with Buffalo with an opportunity to just get a field goal to win the game, and they come up with a huge play and then go down the field with a game-winning field goal. I'm curious about the status of wide receiver Troy Franklin, and he wasn't able to be an impact. Neither was Pat Bryant, losing those 2 guys. So this offense for Denver, there's just so many pieces that that are left wide open, that are blank, that you're curious how they're going to fill them in. We're talking about the quarterback play, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, JK Dobbins. There's so many pieces offensively that you're questioning, like, okay, how are they going to deal? And then for New England, it's just one question. You got dominated up front by the Chargers, and they had 5 sacks. And then you come back the next week against Houston, and if CJ Stroud doesn't have the worst game of his career, you're in massive trouble. Drake Maye gets sacked another 5 times, and for a massive total of yards, 36 total yards on those sacks. Maye had 4 fumbles, 2 were lost. Will Anderson Jr. was a straight wrecking crew in that game, and with Jonathan Cooper, Franklin Myers, Bonitto, these monsters, and then Pat Surtain on the outside. I mean, they've got a ton of talented playmakers on this Denver defense. I would not being truthful if I said I didn't believe that the Broncos get to Drake Maye 4 or 5 times and they're able to come up with stops potentially in the red zone to keep this game close, to get a strip sack at some point, to get the football in favorable field position. That's exactly what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to take their chances, because if this game is played straight up, Drake Maye and how efficient he's been in distributing the football, and this run game, which at times is explosive, and at their floor, they're still, I would say, at their floor, they're middle of the pack. At their ceiling, they're as good as any run game in the league, and it's going to take time to work out that offensive line as they come together and play more. I think that this is a unit that's going to improve with Travion Henderson establishing himself as one of the best backs in the league, and then that offensive receiving core. I think that they're going to try and add another wide receiver, somebody to that unit. Feels like they need another really talented weapon. Drake Maye had an MVP type season, MVP caliber, sure, but really feels they could add someone like a Chris Bell from Louisville, Denzel Boston, maybe not of the likes of a Tyson, a Tatum, a Kyle Lemon, those first-round caliber wide receivers. There's going to be about 10 wideouts out in this draft, so that's what's really fun for me with Blitz with Blender, is that I cover so much of college football that once the season's over, those 10 weeks before the NFL draft, after the Super Bowl, breaking that stuff down and getting into it. So if you love college, another reason to subscribe if you have not already to the channel here. Look, it's free, doesn't cost you anything, just helps me continue to make better content. Not even close to a finished product here, but we're just trying to get better. So that's an area with New England in the offseason where they're going to continue to improve, and I see zero reason why the Patriots and the Broncos are not exactly back in a situation like this for the next half decade plus, with these coaches that are some of the best in football. Vrabel, he's earning every penny as this first-year guy at the Patriots. And Sean Payton, the job that he has done in all that cap space, the dead cap money with the Russell Wilson deal to put him here, it's truly unbelievable. And to get back into the sense of just the simple matchup, let's go over a couple more statistics, because the Denver Bronco defense hasn't just been good in the sense of pressure on the quarterback. They're good in specific areas like red zone scoring. The number 2 defense in football, they only have teams score touchdowns 44% of the time when they get the ball into the red zone. And they allowed less than 2 touchdowns a game. That was the second best mark in the NFL, 1.8 touchdowns a game, and the points that they allowed a game, like that 18.9 number, which was the 4th best in football, that has a lot to do with it. And the games that have been in this postseason, you look at those results, which teams wound up winning? The Rams, they had the ball in the red zone twice, and they turned those into touchdowns. The Chicago Bears, they came up short, first and goal at the 5 in the 4th quarter. They had a red zone opportunity also that they got turned away in the first drive of the first half, the opening possession. They got turned away, and they don't turn that into points. So that was an example. And then the Buffalo Bills, when they have that lead by a point and they're trying to extend it to 8, the conversation between Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, who are on the call for this one as all AFC Championship games go to CBS, they're discussing would they go for 2 maybe, but they wind up settling for a field goal. It's only a 4-point game, complete opportunity to take sole possession of that game and it be in their hands, and they wound up kicking a field goal. So holding teams to 3, and when you get the ball in the red zone, scoring touchdowns, those are the keys. And teams that have turned it over, like Josh Allen in overtime with an interception, like Caleb Williams with an interception in overtime, like CJ Stroud with 4 interceptions against New England, it's been as clear as any previous year that it doesn't necessarily have to be elite, unbelievable play from somebody in the postseason. More of just make less mistakes. Simply execute. Don't turn the ball over. A punt's not a terrible play. And not doing too much. These quarterbacks like Williams and Allen and Stroud trying to make these plays happen and putting their teams in really tough positions. And personally, to me, I'm sure you'd agree. Like Josh Allen, Caleb Williams, and their legs having the ball right around midfield on those drives. Allen was right around like the 40, but moving. I thought at that point you could run the ball just about with the quarterback's legs on every play, and they're just going to about pick it up, put him in shotgun, and give him the option to go right, left, up the middle. Just they're the best athlete essentially on the field. Go make a play. I thought that the coaching has got to be somewhat more conservative when you're of the nature of that field goal. And for the likes of a team like Chicago with Ben Johnson, they had that example where they took the shot against the Packers in their matchup, that late game in December, which kind of decided the NFC North. They got the touchdown to DJ Moore. So this game could very well head to overtime. I would not be all that surprised. Some of you that are Patriots fans out there, you might really turn your head and question that, but you would be overlooking the impact of a truly really good defense. And then, like I talked about before that Chargers game, and I went on and on about this Patriots offensive line. This is one of the most complete teams in football, and I'd be close to arguing that they would be the most complete team in the league if they had an offensive line that protected their quarterback. This is one of the sole focuses going into the offseason, is finding a way to protect Drake Maye better, who got sacked 47 times this year. So I said that number of 4 or 5 sacks from the Broncos incoming. They averaged 4 a season, and that was against playing the schedule that they did. Now here's an opportunity to play an offensive line that gave up some of the most sacks in the league. So it's possible that they get there like 5 or 6 times, similar to the tune that a good pass rush of the Chargers had, I think, 46, 47 sacks, and the Texans are right around that mark with dominant pass rushers. So the strategy from Denver, from Joseph, I'm expecting them to attack and get after Drake Maye, force the issue, require this guy to deliver the football downfield, and in just a general sense, this is not the strongest receiving core left even in the postseason. I would say the strength are the best receiving core definitely left are the Los Angeles Rams and what they do at the tight ends. The Patriots have a decent enough unit. Henry's a good tight end, and Diggs and Boutte and Douglas has come up at times. But the Denver Broncos, in the way that they cover with Moss and the rookie Jahdae Barron, has really come on. I think this guy's going to turn into a true shutdown piece opposite of Pat Surtain. And I like Riley Moss, but you see the potential out of Barron. He was an excellent player for Texas. He really came on the national scene maybe later on than he should have in the year because of the way that he played against Jeremiah Smith in the semifinal of the college football playoff. For those of you that, again, follow college, I reference a lot. And apologies if you don't follow college all that much. Jeremiah Smith's probably a future Hall of Famer. But Jahdae Barron limited him in that semifinal game 2 seasons ago. And he pretty much got drafted in the first round because of performances like that one. So this kid is tenacious. He can run with anybody, very good ball skills, and he's the exact type of player that's a bit of an unknown for what would be a Patriot fan, and saying this is a guy that could really have a true impact. Because if you do have an opportunity late in a game or Drake Maye and they need to move the ball, let's say they're trailing by 3 points and getting the ball in position for a game-winning touchdown or a late field goal, that's a guy you might try and pick on, and I'm not so sure you specifically go and target him. And with this Denver Bronco rush defense and my expectation that the Patriots have a hard time moving the football, I'm going with low scoring. And there's individuals out there that say the Broncos don't have a shot. They don't believe in it. I am of the opposite belief. Now, for a team to score more than 20 points, for somebody to get 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals, any way you want to slice it up, to get more than 20, it's going to take execution in the red zone. And I think that 20 points is what it'll take to win this game. And what will factor into that are explosives. Both of these defenses are going to be aggressive. With Denver, you're looking for more opportunities, chances to get the ball on your side of the field. If they're deep in your territory, forcing a takeaway or forcing a field goal by getting a sack, a play that can be negative to end a drive. And if you're the Patriots, an aggressive nature, an opportunity to get the ball. If there's anyone that's more conservative as a defense in this game, I would look at that being New England. Now, I think that they can do that and trust, okay, with our secondary, let's just play coverage. Let's stop the run and not go after this backup quarterback. Now, it's fascinating looking at that, because here's a backup guy. Do you attack him and force the issue, or do you play back and trust your guys that you're going to put him in the pocket and force him to beat you? I think that it can be both ways. You'll sprinkle it, but for Denver, it's like, look, Drake Maye is good enough. You've seen it the entire season that with a 4-man rush, he's going to pick you apart. And even when pressured, he's able to force the issue. 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, doesn't happen by chance, with 113.5 rating and 72% completion percentage. Again, with this wide receiving core, it sounds like I'm being super negative about it. Look, they're as deep as any unit when you've got 4 guys over 500 yards overall, and then there's still Douglas that had 450 yards, and Stevenson, Henderson coming out of the backfield. It's still a solid overall unit. That's why they are in the AFC title game. And this is just a quick message for fans of Denver or New England. You can't expect to be here next year. I know that it will be. If you're a Denver fan, you're saying, all right, if we have Bo Nix, we would have won the Super Bowl. Like, we're going to be back there next year. If you're a Patriots fan, you're saying Drake Maye is going to be even better next year. We're going to be right back here. Got to still get through what has been a guy in Lamar Jackson if nothing ends up happening there. Patrick Mahomes, what happens with the Chiefs? Josh Allen with the new coach. Do they surge? Los Angeles Chargers in that division for Denver. You hadn't won the division in a decade, so now you're just going to be the 1 seed in the AFC every year. So I'm not raining on a parade. I'm just saying, cheer your darn butt off. Get loud if you're going to this game, because you may not be back here, just like the Patriots hadn't been in a title game since they that was when they won the Super Bowl 6 years ago. So this is one of those matchups that I am wary of, those fans that are like, okay, we're going to be right back here. You can't take this moment for granted. Enjoy it. You're a game away from the Super Bowl, and really, I want to see that happiness level in celebration. Someone's going to lose. Lose. It'll be devastating, but there should be a true appreciation for what these teams did, because it was all talk this year going into the season, still about the same couple of quarterbacks. And now this new era has me really excited about the future of the league and being in excellent hands with the Drake Mayes, the Bo Nixes of the world, the Caleb Williams, and these young guys of this new era that are now competing for titles at the same level of Josh Allen, of Lamar Jackson, of now potentially with a chance to usurp Mahomes in the AFC West, and in the NFC, it's the same story. When you're looking at an opportunity for one of those young quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams to be the guy in that conference and to take over and be him, because Matthew Stafford up there in age, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, do you trust those guys in big games? I'm not so sure that you fully do. So there's opportunity there, whereas the AFC, with all of those quarterbacks, and you listed fully out with Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Jackson, Herbert, there are 5 the juggernaut level quarterbacks that you've got to deal with. So that's to say, just an appreciation level. No matter how stressful this game gets, just the fallback is we watch these games to not torture ourselves, to truly enjoy it and enjoy and love the sport. So it'll be nerve-wracking, no doubt about it, but the finding a way to enjoy a championship game, because that's ultimately what you love. It's that pressure is a privilege, that old saying there. So to continue, I think Drake Maye got a little bit more heat for his matchup in the cold than he should have. He was under duress. That Texans defense and the way that they swarm, I actually thought he played decently well given the circumstances of that weather. I get you practice in it, but still, Stingley and Lassiter, Alshire and Bullock and Petrie, and that's just the back seven of that defense. And 3 touchdowns, only the 1 interception, the fumbles. That's something that's got to be just eradicated going forward in big playoff games or big games in general. But it's a guy now that's 2-0 in the postseason. Drake Maye got that first win against LA. Now Houston 2-0 in the playoffs. It's like, at what point is he going to lose his first playoff game? And now in a matchup where he's favored to win on the road in Denver, I am curious what the environment is like in the early going, because the Soldier Fields of the world, the Lumen Fields, they were just bonkers. Gillette Stadium, unreal atmosphere. That is playoff football. I don't know about you, but it was incredible watching those games on Sunday. The Bills and the Broncos game, that was great. The Seahawks 49ers, not a good game, but you could tell it was a great atmosphere. But the snow coming down in the Texans Patriots game, and then cold, 10 degrees, Bears Rams, some of these iconic franchises, huge markets, and the weather and the national anthem. It was just that was your day. That was the best football day that I've seen in a bit. Just the weather nature of it. So for the Broncos, I think that there's a level of aggressiveness that Sean Payton's going to try and come out with to take their shots and opportunities. Look for Courtland Sutton to get more targets in this one, because he wasn't a huge factor against the Buffalo Bills. 4 catches for 53. This man's a Pro Bowl player. I think that Courtland Sutton's getting something like 12 targets in this game. He's been maybe the best third down receiver in the NFL this season. He's the go-to guy. He's the player that you're looking for consistently. Marvin Mims, he's been a really nice breakout type player for Denver, but Courtland Sutton, he's the guy. And Christian Gonzalez, most likely he's going to be shadowing him throughout the game. That size, that physical elements of both of these two players going head to head, that's probably my favorite matchup of this game. Like Pat Surtain, with all due respect for the New England Patriots receivers, and they've got good ones, I don't know if there's more than 4 or 5 guys in the league that stand a chance in just single cover and when they're lined up and Pat Surtain's on the other side of him. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jamar Chase, and even a lot of those guys have struggled in their matchups against him. He's just a different level of player. Gonzalez is trying to turn into that. And maybe he will, maybe he won't be. He's the defensive player of the year, and the reason is number 2. But I think that there's an opportunity for the Denver Broncos to really try and get the football to number 14, and they should try to often. It was evident in their game that there was a tight end advantage, that the Buffalo Bills tight ends of Dawson Knox and Kincaid, that they're such a focal point specifically in the red zone, whereas Denver, I thought a lot of Evan Ingram, and I spoke highly of him, and then this later sort of last 6 weeks of this 2025 season, I've been like, where has he gone? I thought that Evan Ingram was due to have production similar to what he had in like 2023, where he had close to 1,000 yards and he had decent success with the Giants, and then he finished with 460 yards, and the guy still played in 16 games this season. So Evan Ingram, can he be an impact player against this linebacking core of the New England Patriots? That's still the Spillane injury. They brought in Giddens to replace that. Again, he's a role-type player. He's been excellent for the Patriots throughout the year. Carlton Davis, how healthy is he? He's questionable for this game against Denver. So you're looking at that. Ramondre Stevenson, you want to talk about toughness? That's another player. He played through that eye injury against the Texans, and he would not be taken off the field for more than a couple of snaps. So you look at the elements of injuries. It's unfortunate at this time of season that it's so prevalent, but it strikes in the worst of ways, and I feel for the Denver Bronco fan base. Denver Broncos, excuse me, not Denver Bronco. The Broncos fan base in such a manner that it's it feels like what's the reason? A lot of people say everything happens for a reason, and I use that a lot of the times, especially in this type of sports world where if you're rooting for a team, there's only one team in that specific league that's going to be happy at the end of the season. Save a couple of specific examples, and I don't think that fully applies to Patriots or Broncos fans, because there are the sentiment that I've heard out there, like the Patriots, they lose in the AFC Championship game, that's a full pat on the back. You should be happy and excited. You might not be back here for 3 or 4 seasons, and you're playing against a backup quarterback. This is your chance. And the Denver Broncos, by what means are you going to get a home game, the divisional round, or the AFC title game? So those fans better be going crazy. They shouldn't have voices left by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, and they got to find a way to get some sort of caffeine and energy for that fourth quarter to be lit up, because this might not be coming around all that often. Just look at the Seattle Seahawks and where you thought that team was a decade ago, and then what happened with them and not being back to an NFC type title contention situation. So it can happen quickly where you have something that's similar to a fall off and not knowing where you are. So that's where that crowd, that atmosphere for Denver, I think it's going to be special. Better than Seattle, it's possible. There's nothing quite like Mile High. Seattle's a different type of animal, but then again, the Denver Broncos, and you look at every game, no matter the score, the situation, they're bringing it, they're standing up, they're loud, they are so coordinated to be quiet on offense, screaming definitely loud on defense, and it's going to be a factor. Drake Maye's been at home the last couple of weeks, now traveling to a road environment, unfamiliar, and dealing with the crowd noise, making adjustments at the line of scrimmage. I'm going to take the New England Patriots to win this game, but I'm going to take them to do it in very tight fashion. I see field goals in this game. I'm going to take the Patriots to win this game in 19-14. We're going to get a defensive battle. It's going to be tight. I would go with the under in this matchup, and you might be saying a 5-point margin, the way New England is. Are you being disrespectful towards the Patriots? No, it's just respect for Payton. It's respect for Broncos defense. Defenses win championships. Now, a big part of why these 4 teams are in the championship games, because the Rams have a top 8 defense. The Patriots, they're a top 6 to 8 defense overall in the league. Not just do they have MVP candidates in Maye and Stafford, or great years from Nix and Sam Darnold to get him here, but it's been quarterback sacks. All these teams, top 10 in sacks, getting to the quarterback, taking the football away, limiting points, and it's all of those small things. And so statistically, you look at the stats, you're like, yeah, that fully makes sense why all these teams are here. So I'm going to take the Patriots to win this one, but let me know down below in the comments who you ultimately wind up seeing it and why. What am I missing here to why the Broncos would wind up beating New England? I got to hear from you. Please let me know why they do it. See, I see the ability for Drake Maye to use his legs, but Dre Greenlaw and the element that he possesses of big hits and that nature, Drake Maye could take a shot early that could impact him running the ball. It was such a factor against the Chargers, where that's a big part of why they won. Getting the steal of those 3 points before half to take a 6-3 lead into halftime. And then this past week, not quite that factor, because they've got those really talented edges for Houston, and then Alshire roaming around. So you've got a caliber defense similar to Denver, and then over in the other conference, you've just got freaks across the board. So I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments who you wound up picking in this game and why. Thank you so much for watching throughout the season. It's just too bad this is the last game that I will be previewing for an AFC matchup, right? For either the Broncos or the Patriots. It's the last game to do of the season. It has been an absolute pleasure to cover the Denver Broncos, and looking at the the team as a whole and how fun their games have been and taking them in close fashion, and then the Patriots with Maye and their story and the defense coming alive and Mike Vrabel being such a culture fit and them just being just a team that's very easy to root for. And that wasn't what the Patriots were at the heights and when they had all that success. Like myself, I was incredibly young when Tom Brady was winning his first couple of Super Bowls, not fully aware and old enough to know. And so it was that later run where the Patriots were disliked because they won all the time. The same way the Kansas City Chiefs, they were rooted for to beat New England originally, and now everybody's rooting against Kansas City because they're just tired of it. This is a game where you see all four teams. It's like nobody is really tired of anybody. You're just hoping for really good football. So that's almost what I'm rooting for here, is a really good game down to the wire, the same way so many of these games of the playoffs have been. Of the 10 games so far, 7 of them have come down to one possession at the end. It's been a pleasure covering both of them this season. Sadly, one of these teams will lose, but the future is unbelievably bright for both of them. So I appreciate you. Again, if you have not subscribed to Blitz with Blinder, please do so. My name is Josh Blinder. I make NFL college content every day. We're going to keep it rolling into the offseason now, getting set for the Super Bowl and then the NFL draft. So much to cover with the upcoming draft. These two teams will have picks late in the first round, but holes certainly to fill, covering all of that and where they're going to go directionally. And it's going to be an absolute blast for that. So make sure to stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, and it just helps me so much to continue doing this. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blinder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blinder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.